Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabham Girivardhari. Sodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabham Girivardhari. Sodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabham Girivardhari. Sodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Astar Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Saho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today is Mother's Day, and I'm going to read something that relates to that from Bhagavad Gita. This is from the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as it is, text 4. I'm going to read the Sanskrit. If you know it, you can repeat after me. And then I'll read the English and Srila Prabhupada's purport. Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiya tasam brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradapita. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original Father of all living entities. The living entities are combinations of the material nature and the spiritual nature. Such living entities are seen not only on this planet, but on every planet, even the highest, where Brahma is situated. Everywhere there are living entities. Within the earth there are living entities, even within the water and within fire. All these appearances are due to the mother, material nature, and Krishna's seed-giving process. The purport is that the material world is impregnated with living entities who come out in various forms at the time of creation according to their past deeds. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, from our mothers, we are very fortunate to get this human form of life. It's a great opportunity for all of us, because in this human form of life, we can understand our real identity, who we really are. It's a very important question, and no other species is this very easily possible. So, there are many different forms of life we could have taken, but fortunately we've all had human mother, human father, and we should be very grateful, especially to the mother who provides the body that we can have, that we can use to become free from the cycle of birth and death. Thank you. So, you could imagine if somebody that you loved forgot who he or she was and lost all sense of where he or she was. If you don't know who you are and where you are, you're not going to be able to act in a way that's beneficial to you or to anyone else. For example, if I thought that right now I'm Napoleon on the battlefield of Waterloo, and I didn't understand that I'm Drutakarma Das in the Harekrishna temple in SanDiego, I would be in big trouble.
We'd get an interesting lecture.
Right. You still might get one. So, actually we're all in that position that we really don't know what our real identity is. Neither do we have a very good understanding of where we are. So, to help give people that true understanding of who they are, and where they should be going, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, wanted to build in Sridham Mayapur in West Bengal the temple of the Vedic planetarium. And the purpose of that temple of Vedic planetarium is twofold. On one hand, it's a wonderful, beautiful, very large and expansive temple where there will be deities of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, and where thousands and thousands of devotees can gather together and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. But its other purpose is to give people some understanding of the Vedic conception of the universe and the purpose of our human life in this universe, and where we should be going beyond this universe to the spiritual world, which is our original home, but we've forgotten that. Actually, today, material scientists, they would give a different set of answers to these questions. Who are we, where are we, and where we should be going? They would say, we are machines made of matter who have somehow or other, by accident, by a series of mutations in our DNA over millions and millions of years, somehow or other. We've gotten this human body which evolved from apes and monkeys. But even that really wasn't necessary. It could have just as well been cockroaches ruling the earth. This human form of life is a complete accident. It has no purpose. The universe itself is just the result of some random fluctuation of the quantum mechanical vacuum. There's no purpose behind it. In Bhagavad Gita, in the 16th chapter, Krishna describes this kind of philosophy. He says there's a certain type of philosopher that Krishna describes. Asatyama pratishtam te, jagat ahur anishvaram, aparaspara sambhutam, kimanyat kamakaitukam. That means there's a certain type of philosopher who says, everything is happening by chance. There is no purpose to the universe. Life is whatever we want to make of it. And at the time of death, everything is finished. So you better get what you can while you can. That's the purpose of life. But from the Vedic literature, we get a different idea. The Vedanta Sutra does not say, aham chemicals. I am chemicals. No, it says, aham brahmasmi. I am a being of pure consciousness. An individual, personal, conscious, eternal being. That is my real nature. I'm a being of pure consciousness. You're a being of pure consciousness. We're all beings of pure consciousness. And we all have a relationship with the source of all conscious beings. And this source of all conscious beings is also conscious, individual, and personal. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eka bahudam yo vididati kaman. Yes, there are unlimited, eternal, conscious persons. But among them, one is supreme. One is the source and maintainer of all the others. So our actual purpose in human life is to discover what our relationship with that eternal source of all conscious beings really is. That is our purpose. So, at the present moment, however, we're not fit to exist on that higher level of reality, that level of pure consciousness, as Srila Prabhupada sometimes called it, that spiritual world which is beyond the world of matter. Now we find ourselves in the world of matter. So, why is that? Why do we find ourselves in contact with the world of matter? Krishna bahir mukahana bhogavanchakare nikatashta mayatare japati adare. Krishna bahir mukha means we've turned our face from Krishna. Like Krishna is on the altar, and we can turn our face to Krishna and appreciate Krishna and pray to become a servant of Krishna. Or we can turn our face away from Krishna and say, I'm going to live my own life. I'm going to satisfy my desires independently of you. And the souls that make that decision find themselves in a different place. And they find themselves with a different identity. Each of us has an eternal spiritual form. It's called our Swarupa, our eternal spiritual form in which we serve Krishna as a friend, a parent, a lover, some kind of relationship we have with Krishna. And we have our eternal spiritual form in which we carry out that relationship as part of Krishna's Nitya Leela, his eternal pastimes. But if we have developed the mentality of enjoying ourselves separately from Krishna, and we try to do that, we can't do it with our Swarupa, with our eternal spiritual form. We can't do it in the spiritual world because the only thing that goes on in the spiritual world is transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. So, if we want to enjoy independently from Krishna, it has to be with a different body and in a different place. So that's why Krishna has manifested the material universe. And not just one material universe, but millions and millions of them. Krishna expands as the Mahavishnu. And the Mahavishnu lies on the causal ocean, a sea of spiritual energy. And he sleeps and dreams lying on that causal ocean, lying on Sheshanag, the serpent bed. And as Mahavishnu breathes out, millions of universes come from the pores of his transcendental body, and they expand. And then they remain for some time. And then, when the Mahavishnu breathes in, all those millions of universes contract and re-enter his body. So, when he breathes out and the universes are expanded, by his glance, he injects conditioned souls into the universes. And he enters each universe himself as the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the Vishnu who lies within each material universe, and there are millions and millions of them. And from Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who is lying in the bottom of each material universe, from him sprouts a lotus flower. And on that lotus flower sits the first created being in each universe, the demigod Brahma. And Brahma's business is to manifest planets where souls can live on different levels of reality, and he also manifests the different kinds of material bodies that souls can inhabit. So the Temple of Vedic Planetarium will show all of this in great detail. There'll be a planetarium theater showing films about this. There'll be exhibits about this. So those universes are like alternative realities. They're the place where souls who want to enjoy separately from Krishna can try to enjoy themselves in different ways. So Krishna, he's anticipated all the types of desires that the souls can have. So Krishna has conceived of 8,400,000 kinds of bodies that souls can try to use to enjoy separately from him. And when a soul is placed in this body, in one of these kinds of bodies, it identifies with it by ahankara. Ahankara means false ego. Ahankara vamudhatma kartahamiti manyate. So by false ego, we identify with the kind of body that we're placed in. So we're forgetful of our real identity. Just like if somebody goes into a movie theater and looks at a movie, if the director has done a good job, the people sitting in the show watching it will identify with the character on the screen. For example, if I go to a James Bond movie, of course I shouldn't do that. Sometimes on airplanes I've been exposed to such things. But then I identify, if the villain is coming to kill me, then I feel afraid. And I do something to respond. Or if the girl is there, I may be attracted. Really, it's just lights on the screen, and it has nothing to do with me and my real identity. But for the time I'm in the theater, I identify with the characters, and I experience emotions and feelings, and I imagine myself to be acting because I falsely identify myself with the character on the screen. So all of us are actually in that position. We're thinking, I am this body, I am man, I am woman, I am Russian, I am Chinese, I am Indian, I'm American, I'm smart, I'm not so smart, I'm this, I'm that. We're identifying like that. And that happens in every species of life. The soul in the body of a dog is thinking, I'm a dog. I'm a very nice dog. Here in Pacific Beach, lying down in front of the smoke shop. On a sunny day, I saw a dog today lying in front of a smoke shop, lying on the sidewalk in the sun. He thinking, boy, this is a great life. I'm a dog. I'm here in Pacific Beach. It's a sunny day. I'm lying on the sidewalk. So the variety of bodies is there, and there's a variety of planets, because Krishna's anticipated all the different types of desires that people have. So different kinds of facility are provided. Just like on the airplane, you can go first class, business class, or hellish class. Which is the way I usually go. So that's one purpose of the material universe. Okay, we've forgotten who we are. Where are we? We're now in the material world. And Krishna could just leave it like that. But Krishna is supremely compassionate and merciful. Therefore, Krishna comes into the material universes. He comes himself. He sends the great teachers, the great spiritual masters. He provides the Vedic literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to try to remind us who we really are and where we are. You know, we should understand we're not in the place where we can fully express our potential as beings of pure consciousness. We're in a place now where we're very restricted. But Krishna comes in his different incarnations. He establishes lines of spiritual masters. He appears as the Vedic literature to give us the chance to live up to our full potential. And that can especially be done in the human form of life. As I said, for which we should be grateful to all of our mothers for giving us this human body, which is a great opportunity for us. Of course, we can misuse it. Like a few weeks ago, I had to go to the DMV. Anybody like going to the DMV? Would you rather have a colonoscopy or a root canal? I would. You know, because I had to get my license had expired, and now they've got this new license that will let you go through TSA at the airport. Yeah, so I had to spend some time. Well, what a license does, it allows you to operate a vehicle, drive a car. But if you misuse the vehicle, like if you endanger yourself or others by the way that you drive, and I know none of you do that, you're all good drivers, but if you disobey the laws, if you drive while intoxicated, DUI, or something like that, then you lose your license to operate the vehicle, which means you have to get around some other way. So right now we have the license to operate the human vehicle because we are like that. We're like drivers in a car. The soul is in the machine of the material body, in this case the human body. But if we misuse our human form of life, which unfortunately many people do, then the result is that you lose the license for the human vehicle and you have to occupy some other vehicle, maybe a plant vehicle, an animal vehicle, an amoeba. But there's a process of evolution, not the kind that Darwin mistakenly talked about, but an evolution of consciousness, an evolution of the soul. Say if the soul, because of its misuse of free will, is placed in a lower species, a lower kind of animal, then by the process of transmigration of the soul, reincarnation, the soul will make progress through the different species of life until it again achieves the human form, where again it will have the chance to get out of the cycle of birth and death and go to the spiritual world, which is beyond all that, in one's swarupa, one's actual spiritual form. As I said, right now we don't really know who we are. Of course, the first step is simply to understand Jivara Swarupa Hoy Krishnara Nityadas, the eternal constitutional form and position of every soul is eternal servant of Krishna. That's the first thing we have to understand. We're not the masters of the universe. We're not the supreme controllers. We're tiny sparks of the original fire. And we have our natural position. And then when we understand that basic point, gradually through the practice of bhakti yoga, we can come to understand who we really are. So, actually there's a lot of scientific evidence for transmigration of the soul. You know, there are psychiatric studies of past life memories where people can recall in great detail previous lifetimes. You know, there are psychiatrists and psychologists who've verified the existence of the person claims to have been in the past life. There is scientific evidence for the existence of a conscious self that can exist apart from the body made of matter. You know, it comes from medical studies of out-of-body experiences and things like that. So in this Temple of Vedic Planetarium, part of it's going to be a beautiful temple, but another part of it's going to be a museum and theater complex where all of these things will be displayed, and people will come from all over the world to be educated, to understand, gain some understanding of who I really am, where I am. I'm now in the material world, but this is like the airport, you could say. From this airport, there's an opportunity to travel somewhere else. And we should want to go to the best destination. And the best destination is Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's planet in the spiritual world. But to get there, first of all, we have to understand the airport and how to move through it and get to the point where we'll take off and go to that ultimate destination. So we should understand who we are, where we are now, and where we should be going. And that's the purpose of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. So I write about a lot of these topics in my books, some of which are available at the table out front. So if you're interested, you can have a look at them. I'll stop here, ask if there are any questions or comments.
Krishna. Thank you, Drutakarma Prabhu.
Adri Dharana.
Yes. Thank you for the lecture. It was nice. You really emphasized really establishing the relationship with Krishna and getting to the spiritual world. And you kind of intertwine that with Vedic cosmology and some of the work that you've done. And I haven't come across your position on in your work. Maybe it's there. I'm sure it is. But what is your position on the idea of the world being flat?
That's a very good question. Basically, we have to understand that a lot of things are beyond the range of our immediate sense perception. Yeah, that's a fundamental point of the Vedic epistemology. Where we find there are three main ways of getting knowledge. One is called pratyaksha, which means the evidence that is directly perceivable to us with our present senses. But the problem with our present senses is they're limited and imperfect. I can see, but I can only see a certain distance. I can only see a certain range of the electromagnetic spectrum. Same with hearing. I can only hear a certain part of the auditory spectrum. So we have our senses and we can get some knowledge through them, but not complete knowledge and not always perfect knowledge. Then there's anumanam, which means logical inference, where we can try to extrapolate from what we can observe and by logic make some conclusion, which we then accept as being the truth. But the mind that we use for logical inference is also imperfect. We can make mistakes, we can become illusion, we can cheat or become the victim of cheating. So, according to the Vedic epistemology, there's a more reliable source of information. It's called the Shabda Pramana, the evidence that comes from transcendental sound that emanates from the Supreme Conscious Being, who is the ultimate controller and source of everything. And this is based on the idea that this Supreme Conscious Being is capable of communicating this knowledge to human society, which he does originally in the form of transcendental sound, which is then encoded in the Vedic literature. So ultimately, I don't know anything myself. I'm Shastra Chakshush. I see through the eyes of the Shastras. So there are two categories of Vedic literature that deal with the question that you asked. One is the Puranas, like the Bhagavad Purana and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Another is the Jyotish Shastras, like Surya Siddhanta. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, our earth is presented as part of the plane of Bhumandala. And this is presented as a description of the Virat Rupa, or universal form, like Krishna displayed to Arjuna, a version of his universal form. But he said, to see it, I have to give you divine eyes. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a description of the universe as a universal form of Krishna, as perceived by divine eyes. And it portrays our earth as part of a larger mandala called Bhumandala, the earthly planetary system. And you could say that's flat, but it's not the flat earth that many people talk about today, but it's a version of that. The plane of Bhumandala, we're part of that. The central Bhumandala is made up of ring islands and oceans, so it's kind of like a sacred geography. And the central island is called Jambudweep. And the earth of our experience is part of that Jambudweep island. So that's one description of our earth. And you could say, you could use the term flat to describe it. It's not like I said, the flat earth.
The planet flat, and they're going to grow bananas in Antarctica, and are flying around the globe. The plane is all an illusion.
Then there's the second description, which is given in the Surya Siddhanta, Siddhanta Shiromani, and others. Describes the earth as a globe of about the same diameter and circumference that modern science speaks about. So the way that I look at it is they're both real descriptions. But they're different aspects of the same reality. Like Srila Prabhupada was asked, is the earth both flat and round? In other words, spherical. And he said, yes. So there are different ways that one can try to understand that. You can have, like if you take a globe and you make a projection of it on a flat surface, basically that's what we do with a map. And they're both, you can take a globe and you can take the map, which is flat. And they're both representations of the same thing. Another way to look at it is different levels of sense perception. That the Puranas are giving a description of things as they appear to people with purified senses. great sages and demigods. Whereas the Jyotish Shastras are giving a description of things as they appear to ordinary human senses. So it's a topic that will be dealt with in the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. And we'll look at, the different proposals that have been made, by different people who've tried to understand these things. And eventually there will be a research institute that will try to further comprehend these things and express them. So it's kind of an ongoing process of research and development, research into what the different Vedic literatures say, what different spiritual masters and acharyas and the lines of disciplic succession have said about these questions, things like that. So it's an ongoing process of understanding. Anything else? Badri Narayan Maharaj.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you said about sometimes, you can't avoid seeing the movie. Shruti Kirti on a plane. Shruti Kirti Prabhu told me, Prabhupada's secretary, he was traveling with Prabhupada. Now this is when they only had one screen, for every section of the plane or, compartment.
Right.
Now they all have their
Ancient
individual screens.
days,
Yeah.
yes.
So Prabhupada was about 6 rows back from the screen, and they were showing a Rambo movie. And he was being dropped out of a plane and run over by a tank and, grenades thrown all around him. And after about 15 minutes into the film, Prabhupada turned to Shruti Kirti. He didn't have the headphones on. He just, couldn't avoid the visual. So Prabhupada turned to Shruti Kirti and said, "He's not dead yet?" I just said, it is the logical conclusion, So.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada was aware of some elements of popular culture. Like somehow or other he had heard, a song by the Jefferson Airplane. He was talking with some devotees and he said, "What does it say about that song? Find somebody to love." That's Krishna. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.